Success Blueprint Episode 1. What a fresh year to start being positive, building resilience, and maintaining motivation. Today's episode, guys, we will explore strategies and insights to help you develop resilience and stay motivated in the face of challenges. Whether you are navigating personal or professional obstacles, get ready to be inspired today and be empowered and equipped with the knowledge to build resilience and stay motivated by one of the success coaches of TUA based in Brisbane. Let's welcome Richard Whitfield.
Hi Lee, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And I have some.
You have a guest. You have an extra guest.
Right now. Yes. Richard, how are you going? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Lee.
Lovely. And Richard, a lot of people and a lot of our maybe the staff and all of our followers in the future was going to subscribe our channel as well. Are excited for episode 1 Success Blueprint, building resilience and maintaining motivation. And I have spoken to a lot of students as well last year regarding this episode, starting off with building resilience and maintaining motivation. And obviously, you know what, they're very excited to hear from you as our one of our experts in this. So first question, are you ready, Richard?
I'm ready, Lee.
Yay. Now, Richard, how can an individual build resilience in the face of adversity and challenges?
Okay, look, first I'd just like to give some context. My background's in design, in photography in particular. I actually come from a background in fine art, photography, design. So I give that context because there's a lot of overlap, but I speak specifically from that kind of design background, which is probably a little bit different to health and business and other disciplines, but of course there's a lot of overlap. So I just want to clarify that I talk about, the visuals being very helpful in, helping you build resilience and productivity and time management, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm often referring back to design kind of examples, but I hope all our students will still get benefit from the advice I have. And sorry, Lee, I've forgotten your question. So. Sorry, Lee, you're on mute. I can't hear you at least.
How can an individual build resilience in the face of adversity and challenges?
Okay, so I think, first of all, goal setting is so important in there. So really understanding what you're trying to achieve and where you want to go is always the starting point. And I think sometimes people, they set goals, but they're very big goals. They're very ambitious goals. I mean, obviously you've come to study at Torrens. That's a big goal. That could be a 1 year to 3 year kind of commitment to a goal. And it can be overwhelming just kind of thinking about it. Even a trimester can be overwhelming. You've got 3 or 4 assessments to do. And I think people often struggle there to begin with. So first of all, break those goals down into things that you can do that day. Just very small bite-sized things, 3 or 4 things you can do. Break an assessment down into those manageable tasks that you can do. So at the end of each day, you're feeling you're making some progress, and that will really help you build resilience in the long term, I think.
Good points for there, Richard. Thank you so much for giving that, some of the tips that you have also just shared just a while ago. Now, Richard, we're talking about self-care. A lot of people are talking about self-care, despite of what's going on, the ups and downs in life. And self-care can really help you get your self-power back. How does self-care and self-compassion contribute to building resilience and sustaining motivation?
I always think of the when you're on an airline and they're doing the safety check and they say always fit your own oxygen mask before you help others. And it's the kind of same principle. If you're not in a good headspace, obviously it's very hard to work on your own task. But ultimately you're studying because you want to contribute, to society, to people. So always think about your own well-being, before others in there. And all the research shows that when you look after yourself, when you exercise, when you eat well, when you sleep enough hours a night, when you have a social network to support you, in itself, it's going to build resilience for you. Now, when you get those knocks, those setbacks, it's really, really going to help you in there. So even when you're feeling overwhelmed, I say often the best thing to do is actually step away from the task that's overwhelming you and spend some time on yourself. And it could be as simple as, taking a walk around the block. I'm up in Queensland. It's a horribly hot, humid day today. Going for a swim for half an hour, and you'll come back to the task at hand, feeling so much more motivated and ready to tackle what may have seemed before you took that break quite overwhelming.
Totally agree, Richard. And as what they always say, choose your battles wisely as well. You know exactly what are the right choices in life. But again, if you if you really can't really see the right direction, obviously coaches are here, success coaches, just like Richard here, who's in Brisbane and I'm in Melbourne. So you can get in touch with us. So you can, yes, that's why you need us, for you to keep going, and provide you some strategies as well, so you can really bounce back from any setbacks. Now, speaking of that, Richard, can you also share some practical tips for developing a resilient mindset and bouncing back from setbacks?
Okay, well, I'll go straight back to the idea of goal setting is number one. And when I say goal setting, it's really micro goals, those little things you can do. And I guess there's a couple of approaches to this. There's a theory called, eating the frog, which means you do the most challenging task of the day first of all. And then, once you get that out of the way, the kind of task you're dreading, it might be working on an assessment, whatever it might be, giving a talk, whatever it might be, do that first, and then the rest of the day will seem a breeze. I prefer to actually kind of warm up, if you like. So I'll set myself 2 or 3 tasks that I can do very quickly, 5 to 10 minutes each, and that creates momentum in my day, and then get on to the more challenging tasks, because I'm already feeling, yep, I'm in the zone now. I'm ready to go.
That's such a good point to say, because you know what, it just reminds me of something about techniques. Like, have you heard about like exercise techniques when it comes to overcoming some obstacles and also building resilience? Are there any specific techniques and exercises that can help individuals strengthen their resilience and motivation? And what are those things that you have also tried, if you don't mind me asking?
Question without notice. Actually, I think it was with notice.
It's like, let's say you've got your goals, right? And
Yes.
in between goals, in between your journey, you felt like, you know what, I am not good enough. There are self-talks and whatever it is,
Yes.
and you're still resilient, you're motivated, but there are other setbacks and challenges. But maybe there are techniques and exercises that can boost your morale, your confidence to keep
Yes.
going,
Yes.
to strengthen your resilience and motivation.
Well, I could probably give an example from today, because when I was thinking this morning, I'm doing this podcast with Lee, and I suddenly had this real feeling of imposter syndrome. What do I know about resilience? I'm a success coach, but really, am I an expert in there? But I actually think that's a really good place to be sometimes, in that imposter syndrome mode, because that's where we actually learn the most. So thinking about a career, thinking about study, I saw a really interesting little clip from David Bowie, of all people, the other day, and he was talking, the best place to be as a creative, and I did say I was probably going to frame this, around design. The best place to be as a creative is in that swimming pool with your toes just touching the ground, so you're just outside your comfort zone, because that's really where you're going to grow the most, where you're going to learn the most in there. So always be, pushing yourself just outside your comfort zone, not too far outside your comfort zone that you're just definitely setting yourself up for failing, but just far enough that, your toes are just touching the ground. And I think you'll often be surprised at how much you can achieve in that space, how quickly you can be moving forward.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Richard. And I've also tried like listening to music too, and the deep breathing as well, especially if you're really stressed, if there's any assessment or any deadlines, whatever it is, tasks that you need to, achieve in few days time, or whatever deadline it would be. I like, listening to music, calm music, yoga. I don't know if you've done that, because I don't know if it's a girl thing, but, yoga music, meditation music. Some, they love to go for a walk just for, peace and tranquility. Some
Yeah.
they just compose the songs. So there's so many things that they can do, right, in order for them
Yeah.
to overcome those negativities as well, so they can become a better version of themselves, is what they always say, and overcome those obstacles and be more resilient, be strong, and stay motivated as is, isn't it? And I've also heard about pet therapy, like, if you have pets, like dogs, go walk with a dog as well. Do you believe in that, like walking with a dog and also help relax
Oh,
your
absolutely.
mind, your
You've got a dog
spirit?
or a cat, just the very nature of having a pet,
Yeah,
is very therapeutic. And I also agree with the music point.
yeah,
I think you have to be careful with music. Music can be distracting, or
ah,
it can
okay,
actually really help you concentrate. And I think we have to kind of also acknowledge people will have different strategies and tactics that help them and will not help other
true,
people. So um, I'm very
because they're
mindful of
different people.
the music I listen to, because I can get
Not rock music, right?
not into
Yeah.
the word. But funny to say, because I was actually found a playlist on Spotify a couple of days ago, and it was music
Oh,
designed to increase your concentration.
oh,
I think,
wow. Maybe you can share that to us, right? In the future, you can put it on the comment section below. You can do that and share your playlist as well. That's really good. And whilst you're looking for that, even the deep breathing exercises as well, like 3 times, that's what they say, it actually clears your brain. It reoxygenates your brain, and you
yeah,
can think better. You're not being impulsive. You're not panicking, and you're rushing into the situation, something like that. So it gives you more positivity and confidence as well to face the challenges, what's going on, whether it's big or small challenges. Thank you so much for that, Richard. Now, I'm sure we can talk more about this in the future, like a different episode, when it comes to all the exercises and techniques in order for you to become more resilient and bounce back from any setbacks. Another question that has been asked, like, are there any sort of like common misconception about resilience and motivation that you know of, that you can debunk?
well, I think the most common one is that you're either a resilient person or you're not a resilient person. I.e., it's a character trait, when in actual fact it's a learnt skill. Now, obviously, some people
Yeah,
it comes more naturally to. We all have strengths and weaknesses. But even if you feel it's not a strength of yours, it is actually a skill you can learn. So by listening to some of the advice we've given, there's some great books out there. There's a great book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. I'm a big fan of a psychologist and an author in America called Adam Grant. He does a couple of really interesting podcasts, great books too, and really simple techniques and strategies that they discuss, for example, grounded in research. It's not some you just found on social media. This is stuff that is proven to work. And I say we're all different, so some things will work better for some people than others. But definitely, resilience is a skill you can build. So you should never think that, that's not who I am, that's not my natural character. You can work on it, and you can become a very successfully resilient person. And again, going back to the design creative industries, I find that people who are very successful in creative careers have a huge amount of resilience. And I don't think they were born with it naturally, but I think often the nature of design, it's very competitive. I'm not suggesting other industries aren't competitive. Uh, um, but it's an industry where you really put yourself out there, because this is my work, this is my design, this is my photograph, this is my painting, this is whatever, and you need to have a certain amount of resilience, to take often, negative feedback, etc., etc. So I find people in design who are successful naturally build a resilience. They don't necessarily start with resilience, but they naturally build it. So it very much is a learned skill.
exactly right. Agree with that, Richard. And I also heard that some people are actually thinking that it's okay to just stay resilient even though you're not motivated. They said you can really stand alone as resilient, and motivation can come in the future. But I believe in with the books that I've also read before, that they must come together. You can't just be resilient without being motivated. There's no point of being resilient and yeah, you're good with challenges and everything, but you're not motivated. So how can you progress and how can you achieve success? At the same time as well, there is like a misconception about resilience and being motivated can stand alone, and don't worry about the self-talk and belief and all that, but they should work together hand in hand. But we can discuss in the near future. But anyways, thank you for clarifying that, Richard. Was really good points as well. And Richard, how can individuals, you talk about realistic goals a while ago, how can individuals set realistic goals and create such a supportive environment to enhance their resilience and motivation? How can they set realistic goals?
Okay, I think I like the idea again. I think a great technique, particularly around motivation, I'll just start there, is visualizing the future. And in design, I suggest to students, and anybody can do this, actually create a mood board of images that represent what your future will be, where you see yourself in 5 years' time. That could be you have a goal, to be working in New York or Europe or whatever it might be. So put some pictures up, put them on your computer, hang them on the wall next to your computer, whatever, that kind of show where you want to be in the future. Because referring back to that, remembering why you started, I think can be really, really powerful for motivation. So that's what I call your vision. And then we step backwards to, our broader goals, which is, okay, I need to complete my diploma, my degree. And then we step back again, what do I need to do this trimester? Okay, what do I need to do this week? What do I need to do today? And so everything kind of builds on each other, but in this sense, you're building backwards to this is what I need to do today. And it's not being over ambitious, because achieving a few small things every day compounds over the trimester, compounds over the year, compounds over the length of your course in there. So you're not in that situation where it's Sunday morning and you've got an assessment due at midnight and you're only just starting it, because you've been chipping away a little bit each day. And so, yeah, there's still going to be stress along the way, of course. That's resilience comes in, but you're going to be so much more less stressed and more resilient, because you've set yourself up as best as you can for success. Because you're always keeping in mind, this is where I'm going and this is what I need to do today to get there. Oh, excuse me, my phone's going.
I like that idea, Richard, when you say and ask yourself, where do you see yourself in 1 year time, in 2 years time? That's a good sort of like, envisioning yourself where you're heading at. And I like that point that you said about, you've got to have that kind of, I don't know if the word is structured, like it's like a vision board. You exactly know what you want to achieve. You create your success. Like, where do you see yourself in 2 years' time? So you have to be specific. And I've done that. I've shared this to one of our podcasts as well before. Like, like you've got to be specific with your vision and make it happen, right? And if it doesn't happen, reevaluate, and then start again. And don't give up. It will come as long as you work on it, right?
And I think it's a great motivator, because you just keep reminding yourself, okay, this is why I'm doing this. This is the life I'm looking for. This is the contribution I want to make, through my studies to society, whatever it is. It's that reminder. So, when you don't get the grade you want for an assessment, or, things are harder, or, whatever it might be, you've got extra hours, your boss calls you in for some extra hours at work, et cetera, and it all seems a bit too hard. Just going back to that bigger goal, that vision, I think can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it is very powerful, and it happens to anyone. It happens to me as well. So why not try it, guys? If you've got the chance, this year is the right year to start. Now is January, fresh start of the year. Start doing your vision board and see how it goes, and ask yourself, where do you see yourself in 1 year, 2 years time? It's have a timeline when it comes to dream. A dream without a timeline will always be a dream. So thank you for that, Richard. Now, Richard, speaking about social support, what role does social support play in building resilience and maintaining motivation?
Well, again, the research shows that it's incredibly important to have that social support. Whether that's family, whether that's friends, whether that's your classmates, whether it's your lecturers, whether it's a success coach. Having that social support is a key indicator for success in there. I actually read some really interesting research recently. So one technique for resilience and motivation is gratitude. Is always being thankful. When things get a bit tough, remind yourself of what's good in your life. Your friends, your family, etc., etc. But the research actually showed that in terms of resilience and motivation, don't just think about gratitude in terms of what's good in my life, but think of terms of how have I helped other people. So just do that exercise, once a day or once a week. Say to yourself, how have I actually helped someone else this week? So that could be, a classmate you've helped, connected with, friends, family, a stranger. It doesn't really matter. But again, I thought it was a really interesting piece of research that shows that that's actually more powerful than simple gratitude, but how you've helped other people.
That's a good motivation to start the year, right? Like, thinking about that, being grateful, but again, how much have you contributed to the environment, to your, to your social support network, which is really good point, Richard. Thank you so much for that. And, the people around you, I believe, can actually affect the way you think as well and the way you decide on things, right? So make sure, that's what they always say, Richard, right? Surround yourself with
Yes,
like-minded people who can push you to ascend and not to descend, right? That's why me and Richard are a success coach, and the rest of our team who's going to be watching this, we are together as a team because we have one mission, one goal: to inspire and empower other people. Yay, that's really good. Now, Richard, now a lot of people are saying like, oh yeah, it's really easy to say about being positive and have a positive mindset, blah blah blah. But how can an individual cultivate a positive mindset and overcome that self-talk to stay motivated?
Okay. Look, it's certainly true. Some people have a natural positivity. I'm a certified Gallup strength coach, and when you look at strengths, there is an actual strength called positivity, which I'm actually quite envious of because it's not a natural strength that I have. But having said that, again, we can all work on being more positive in our lives. There's a whole lot of literature. Again, if you read, if you're interested to go further, Google Martin Seligman on positive psychology. Again, you don't need to read big academic tomes on it. There's some really accessible material out there to read on how you can be more positive in your life and interaction. So again, it's a kind of a learned skill, and it probably goes back to partly how I answered the last question is, it's being aware of what's good in your life. Instead of focusing on everything that's going wrong, kind of step back and think, actually, I've got these really good things happening. It's not all doom and gloom. I've got these really good things happening. I actually have a member of my family who can be quite negative about things. And I often pull them out and go, hey, and honestly, within 30 seconds, you're absolutely right. Things are actually good. So hopefully you can do that yourself. But again, it's about that social network, having people around you who can support you when you're feeling, a bit low and a bit down, and can remind you of the good things in your life. One of which, of course, is you've got friends and family who can support you in that way.
Oh, that's true, Richard, and it's the right year to start. We're not saying that you have to choose your friends or the people who could influence you, but again, you must be sensitive enough to know about your goals, that what Richard is saying. And if this goal is really important to you, make sure that you have the people around you who can really inspire you to ascend and not to descend, right, Richard? And not disappointing you, or not giving you negative sort of like vibration, like, oh, you can't do it, you're not good enough, or something like that. And that comes about the self-talk, isn't it? This is very important, being resilient and motivated. This is what I have actually learned from you today, Richard, from the first question up to now, that the present one that I've just mentioned a while ago, that self-talk and belief is very important as well, to couple it with resilience and motivation, you have to start in believing yourself that I am good enough, and not that I am not good enough. I am ready, and not say I'm not ready. Because like self-talk can either undermine you or empower you, correct, Richard? So we make sure that we have those values, core values in us, having a good mindset, having good self-talk, belief, resilient and motivated, so that you can focus on your goal, isn't it, Richard? And having the people around you who can, be an inspiration to you, and then you keep going, isn't it, Richard? Yay.
Yeah, look, that's absolutely right. And, it's a habit. That self-talk is a habit. It can be a negative habit. You kind of go, oh, this is too hard, I'm not good enough, etc., etc. Or you can turn it into a positive habit where you're building yourself up. And not unrealistically, self-awareness is so important in all of this. Being aware of your strengths, but also being aware of your weaknesses. Otherwise we're kind of fumbling around in the dark. So, spend some time on that self-awareness. Ask friends and family what your weak points are. Sometimes, we do have these blind spots in there that are holding us back in there. And look, and unfortunately, it's also true. Sometimes we may have friends and family who don't share our vision for the future, and can be quite negative too. And I completely, recognize that can be very difficult if you're in that situation. But that's where sometimes you need to, be hard and not ignore your family or anything, but find people who are on the same wavelength, who will support you in that kind of mutual support, maybe classmates, whatever it might be, so that you have those people in your life who will build you up when you're feeling you need a little bit more support than you can give yourself.
Exactly right. And I love that self-awareness, self-discovery, and of course, having the same wavelength is very important. Like, what a great journey. This is really exciting, Richard. 2024, to start the year with this positivity, building this resilience and maintaining motivation. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers now and in the future will be thinking about setting their goals, could be long-term goals, Richard. So speaking of that, what are some effective strategies for maintaining motivation and staying focused, especially on long-term goals?
I'm going to go back to the idea of the vision board, because I just think it's such a powerful technique. I've used it throughout my career. Again, I'm a visual person, so maybe that makes it a little bit easier. But I think, if you're very clear on where you want to be going, and always going back to the well, if you like, to remind yourself of why you started this journey, when things get a bit hard, a bit overwhelming for whatever reasons, always going back and reminding yourself of what got you excited in the first place. And I'd say if you are a design student, I think this technique may be easier than for some other disciplines, because we are visual people. I have quite a library of design, photography, art books I've collected over the years, and honestly, just taking some time out to look at images. Doesn't even have to be related to any project I'm working on or the style of work that I do, but just seeing other creatives creating beautiful things is enough to remind myself, okay, this is why I'm on this journey. This is what excites me in there. So, that to me is such a foundational strategy to keep yourself motivated moving forward.
Thank you so much. And as you have mentioned, both short-term and especially long-term goals, vision board is really important. And again, guys, if you're watching right now and this recorded, please start. It's now January. Start your vision board. At least you can see your progress and you can see where you're heading at. Thank you so much for that, Richard. And Richard, I was just thinking about this, any inspiring stories or any other example of individuals that you have already spoken to, whether, I know it's confidential, who have successfully built resilience and maintained motivation despite of the ups and downs in a challenging circumstances? Thank you.
Well, to me, the obvious one, if you've been studying with us for any amount of time, is when COVID happened, and suddenly all students had to go online. A lot of students had never studied online before. They'd signed up because they wanted to be in a class face to face with other students and with a lecturer. and suddenly they have no choice but to go online. And I know that was very challenging for a lot of students because I had plenty of conversations with them. And it was really about reframing. And this is another great technique, reframing from, oh, this is a problem, this is not what I want, to, okay, this is a situation over which I actually have no control. So how can I reframe that to, motivate me and keep me positive about the experience? In this example, a conversation I often had is, this is likely to be the future of work. Lee and myself are working from home today. This is going to be the future of work. So get used to working with a computer screen. This is something you'll be able to put on your resume and say, yeah, I spent 18 months studying full-time online. I'm perfectly able to manage my own time, to be self-motivated, to be a productive employer in there. So that's a really simple one to me. Another one that always stands out, when I used to lecture, I had a student, a mature age student, a career changer, whose son had got in terrible trouble with the police. He had to go to court. He did actually end up going to prison. And how stressful would that be if you are the mother of that kid? He just made a stupid mistake in there. But she kept focused on her studies, and she still did incredibly well, despite what, to me, and I think for all of us, would be a terribly stressful time for her through that whole thing. And of course, it dragged on for months, because you don't go to court the next week. It's often months into the future. But she carried on, and she did really well. So I was always so in awe of her resilience in this terrible situation she found herself in, again, over which she had no control.
Thank you for sharing that, Richard. And exactly right, especially with the COVID situation, it taught each one of us to become more resilient, become more adaptive, and still thrive and become more successful. Just like the online, everything has been shifted into an online opportunity that we've realized, even me as a full-time lecturer before, that, I can still teach online. I can still earn and teach, not just face-to-face, but also online. And everything's been flexible. As you have said, we are enjoying working from home and being more productive, coaching and doing the things that we love to do. Even the things that we're not really into, like doing it, but because of that, we're able to love something, that we want to grow more as a person, not just a success coach, but both personal and professional obstacles in life. We were able to overcome that as well. So yes, that's really good. Now, Richard, is there anything else that you want to, like any special message that you want to reach out all our viewers at this time globally?
I guess I'd just to say one thing. What we're talking about in terms of resilience and motivation is, those normal knockbacks. I always sing that song. Was it Shumwamba Wamba? I get knocked down, I get up again. Nothing's going to hold me back. I always think of that. And that's life. There's always disappointment. There's always knockbacks. There's always, like I say, your boss calls you in for some extra shifts and you've got an assessment due. There's all this stuff that's going to get in your way. And that's what success coaches can really help you with. But I also think it's important to recognize that sometimes, these things go beyond this to actually, where you need help, professional help with your mental health. So if you find that's you or think that's you, again, it's really important you reach out. We do have a counselling service as part of the Torrens team. Reach out for that professional help. If you're not sure, we can definitely connect you with the right people for you. So I'd hate people to go away who perhaps do have a mental health issue thinking, success coaches who don't really understand what's going on. This has been really unhelpful for me. I'd say what we're talking about is dealing with normal stresses, knocks in your life. But, I completely recognize that sometimes people need a little bit more help, or sometimes a lot more help than certainly success coaches can give. And there are professional people available through Torrens to help you if that is you.
Great job for that, Richard. And thank you so much for inspiring everyone and allowing us to feel that you have created an impact to each one of us today, Richard. Thank you for sharing your some tips and strategies, and also some experience as well, and some stories a while ago. And we wish you all the best, Richard. And now, guys, you know what? Life is full of ups and downs, and you've heard from Richards as well a while ago while he was answering all the questions from our viewers as well from last year's conversation. Life is full of ups and downs, but again, with the right mindset and tools, you can overcome any obstacles and stay motivated on your path to success. And as what we have learned from Richard right now, start unlocking your full potential and achieve greatness, right, Richard? And believe in yourself that you can. So Richard, thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. And guys, stay amplified, and you have the power to create the life that you desire. Have a great day. See you again next time for our next episode. See you again next time. Bye, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee.